Invokana can cause total renal failure. The FDA knows that and they're ignoring it. See the story at drugsafetynews.com.
So, Farron, obviously, quite a week in terms of the presidential campaign. Donald Trump and Ted Cruz have been going at it, and there was intervention in the Donald Trump-Ted Cruz race, as it were, by an old, I don't even know what to call her. I mean, one of the cartoon figures in the conservative movement, and I want to get to that in a moment. Also, we're going to touch on the debate that took place at the beginning of the week between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, and I guess Martin O'Malley, and the sort of the continuation of that debate that went on this week as Bernie Sanders has begun to gain some momentum. The polls that came out this week had him pulling out a wide margin of a lead in New Hampshire, and it still appears to be neck and neck in Iowa. I mean, these things are very difficult to divine. But let's start with let's start with that, and then we'll get to the Trump and Cruz and Palin show, as it were. But this week we saw really, I think, for the first time in this debate, we saw Bernie Sanders creating some distance between him and Hillary Clinton. And I wanted to get your reaction because I think there's one thing that's becoming clear about the Clinton campaign that I think is going to be problematic for them. But I want to get your reaction on what we saw in that debate.
Well, I think to me, the thing that actually stuck out the most had nothing to do with any of the candidates. I was getting so frustrated with the coverage from NBC ahead of the debate. They were hyping this thing up like it was about to be the ultimate UFC fighting championship, making it sound like Bernie and Hillary had been at each other's throats for the past couple weeks. And I know there had been disagreements between the two on policies, Chelsea Clinton coming out as well, but it has been nowhere near as heated as the Republican debates or what the Republicans are doing to each other. So I thought it was very overhyped from the start. Now, in terms of debate, I think they're both doing a very good job of essentially at this point separating themselves from one another. And that's what they needed to do because, you know, here we are a week and a handful of days away from Iowa. And so they have to differentiate themselves. They're going to have to argue, but at least when they're arguing, they're arguing policy. They're not arguing over stupid things like where they were born. So, you know, I enjoyed the debate. I thought it was refreshing compared to what we saw a few nights prior. But I do think it's going to kind of start to get a little bit more heated the closer we get to Iowa and New Hampshire.
It became clear that President Clinton is trying to, or I should say, Hillary Clinton, I got ahead of it. In running for president, Hillary Clinton is making the argument that she is the most pragmatic and can get the most things done. Now, this is all sort of academic, right? Because nothing is going to pass. Regardless whether it's President Clinton or President Sanders, nothing's going to pass. But here's where her problem is. If nothing's going to pass, and the American public knows this, right? I mean, if you have a Republican Congress, nothing is going to pass. Nothing. Well, if this is the case, then all that's left are things that are aspirational. It becomes very difficult to make the argument, I'm the one who can get things done, when we've already sort of tacitly acknowledged nothing's going to get done. I mean, we'll appoint Supreme Court justices, we'll appoint department heads, we will have executive action on regulations. All of that's very important stuff. I mean, the Supreme Court thing could be the single most important stuff. But at the end of the day, it undercuts her argument. She is running as a can-do candidate, as a pragmatist who can govern. The problem is that we are living in an era where everyone seems to acknowledge it is ungovernable. And so she lacks an overarching message, even though she's, I think, now running for the general election, even at this time, even when she feels the panic from Bernie Sanders. She lacks an overall message, and I think that's going to be problematic for her down the road.
Well, I completely agree with you. And for her being pragmatic you look, that's something we should have seen a little bit more from Obama. And, we got swept up in the hope and change, and everybody had these lofty goals and ideals and things we thought we would see accomplished. And then it led to this massive disappointment. Now she understands that, and that might be why she's, scaling back a bit. But unlike Obama, for the most part, I see Hillary Clinton as a very tough fighter. I think she would fight back a heck of a lot more than we have seen President Obama fight back, if she were to gain power. And the other flip side of that is we can, completely control whether or not we continue with a Republican-controlled Congress and Senate. If we get the voter turnout out there to elect a Democrat, we can flip the House, we can flip the Senate. Those are things that could possibly happen. The next president could be swept in with a Democratic House and Senate. So, no reason in my mind to go a little too pragmatic. Let's set bigger goals. Let's get everybody out there. Let's do this.
From your mouth, Farron.